Hi everyone, it is time for the Boundary Beyond. I've been dreading this for a little while, but I'm not going to dread the discussion. I dread the scenario. Superfeng99 is with me as usual, and do you also share my about this scenario?
To a certain extent, I think that this scenario is actually very close to being just okay, with a couple major exceptions. Yeah, I think we'll think on our thoughts as we discuss this scenario.
Yeah, because part of our review is not just to say yay or nay about various aspects, but to talk through what makes it, kind of a good or bad experience and how it could be improved upon based on playing these scenarios quite a bit now. So even though I don't like the scenario. There's actually some interesting ways in which I think it could be improved upon, as well as discussing where I think it misses the mark and what they could shouldn't do in the future. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So first, we got some things we need to read as we are driving to Mexico. So, first off, if the investigators forged a bond with Ichchaka, meaning that we completed her act deck in the Threads of Fate, we get a little convo with Ichchaka and nothing bad happens. But if she's in the dark, then each investigator begins the scenario with two fewer cards in their opening hand. Ouch.
Ouch.
Indeed. If the investigators found the missing relic, aka they completed the act deck for finding the relic, they can read Arcane Thrumming. They will replace the old Relic of Ages with a new Relic of Ages, forestalling the future. Um, Otherwise, you actually remove this version of the Relic of Ages from the game, and also because you don't have the Relic of Ages to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to look at Relic of Ages real quick?
Sure.
So it actually has text on it. Previously, it had zero text on it. This one, you can exhaust it as a pre-triggered ability, test willpower or intellect 4, and if you succeed, you remove a doom from the current agenda. If you fail, though, you add a doom to the Relic of Ages, max 1 success per game.
I have
So you
never
could
done this before.
theoretically. I think I've done it once, and it was okay. I mean, it was good. It removed a doom,
It's a
so.
good idea. It's just I'm pretty scared about this if you can't remove the Relic of Ages from play.
Right.
But you probably have a good shot at this if you are in the witching hour.
Yeah,
Basically, no consequences.
exactly.
Well,
All right.
maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, maybe some consequences.
Yep.
Next, so if you rescued Alejandro, aka you finished Alejandro's deck, he's in the car with you, and you are able to begin the next scenario with 2 additional resources. That is very, very nice.
Yay! It's another day, another dollar.
It is. However, if you did not find him, there is just an empty seat there, empty chairs and empty tables.
Hmm.
Um, so it's nice that nothing bad happens, because usually that's the one that I leave for last. So yeah. Lastly, you could have picked up some gasoline in the interlude of the previous scenario, and you probably should, because if you don't cross off a gasoline that you've purchased, then no one can take mulligans in this opening scenario for your opening hands.
That's worse than beginning the scenario with two fewer cards in hand, I think.
Probably.
It depends on your deck, of course, but that's scary.
It is scary. Importantly, it is not like that one Return to TCU tarot card where you have to keep weaknesses. You still replace weaknesses in your opening hand, other than tarot cards, of course.
That's correct, because mulligans are separate from the just drawing the opening hand to begin with.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. That is a little intro, and first we have one less thing to do for during setup, because we also need to check the status of the people that we're talking to. So if we have 2 or more cultist tokens, aka we've talked with Ichitaka and completed her and led her when we listened to her a lot,
Mm-hmm.
we get Narcotic Brotherhood and Dark Cult encounter sets, aka the cultists are coming for us. If, however, there are 2 or more tablet tokens, aka we've gone full Alejandro, then we get Yig's Venom and Guardians of Time. So the snakes and the indigenous peoples of the Estli are coming towards us again.
Yikes.
And if none of them are true, aka we have equal amounts of them, or indeed less than 2 of both, we get the Narcotic Brotherhood and the Guardians of Time. So multiple vectors of nastiness.
Yes, so this is the only other time that the Guardians of Time encounter set would show up,
Hmm.
I think, in the entire campaign. So,
I believe that's true.
oof,
Although, wait, do they show up in 5?
nope.
Okay, good to know. Anyway, we will then start with some locations in play. You can begin in either Zocalo or Koyaakan, and each investigator can make that choice. So that's interesting.
It is.
Um,
I usually like to stay together. I mean,
yeah,
but if I do pick, I usually pick Sokolo,
yeah, yeah, that's true.
mostly because of
Um,
something we'll talk about in a second.
yeah, Koyaakan's not very nice.
Nope.
And then we will make our exploration deck. So as always, we will get our ancient locations this time. We have 12 of them. That's a lot. And we will shuffle in 1, 2, 3, 4 encounter cards into that deck to create our exploration deck. And that is going to be our setup. So, what do you want to start with first?
I
I'm actually
think we have
curious.
to look at the locations and the act and agenda.
I agree. So why don't we start with the agenda and act then?
All right. The agenda is a bunch of flavor text. We have 8 rounds. That sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot. And yeah, we have crossing the threshold. So after the first Technoticlan location enters play by exploring successfully, advance. That is interesting. How do we do that? Well, there is going to be some actions on this location. So let's start in Zocalo since that seems like where you start.
Mm-hmm.
So as an action, you discard cards with a total combined cost of at least 5 from your hand. Explore. And this time, instead of saying that you draw the top card and if it is location that is connecting to this location, it checks if the location is the same symbol as this location, aka in this case, a green diamond. So we'll note in our exploration deck there are 2 actually of each symbol. So in the exploration deck there are 2 canals of Technoticlan that would qualify as a successful exploration, and we would put it into play on top of the original location.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we talk about these ones, I guess?
Yeah, so you don't get to choose. It's whatever shows up first.
Yeah.
And yes, we're going to do each of these. I think we'll do one and then we'll advance the act.
Okay.
So this
That
one
sounds good.
gets you 4 resources on it, and then it becomes easier at the end of every round.
Yes. So I guess this is the opposite of the loading dogs.
Yes, yeah.
That is true.
All right. And then the other one, oh, you put it back in. Oh, it's here.
Others.
A 5 shroud location. However, if you get an enemy here and you somehow exhaust it, which is tough because it gets +2 evade, it gets -3 shroud. So,
Yeah. So we have put our first Technoticlan location into play. First of all, very interesting. The location connection symbols on this card is different than the one in the exploration deck.
so TTS sort of makes this work, but it's not perfect. Let's remove the other one, and then it can show us some new one-way connections that show up.
Yeah.
These also come in with clues, unlike the present-day locations, which is important.
Correct. First of all, the first time one of the locations enters play, this one always trips me up. The investigator who just put that location into play must test willpower 4. If they fail, bam, bonus weakness, baby.
Gotcha!
Oh god, that sucks. This is so mean.
And a 4 willpower test, like, now,
Yeah.
it's mean here, but I think it's meaner on the Chapultepec Park location.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
We'll get there in a second. So
Yeah.
a lot of these locations have some sort of a when you put them into play or when you enter them or something, something happens. This one is pretty benign.
That is true.
Anyway, it tells you here that we need to get as many Tenochtitlan locations into play, or sorry, into clues off of them. You also have to get them into play in order for that to happen first.
Correct. It's as if they have victory. They don't. You just need to get the clues off of them, and make sure that the scenario ends with those clues off.
Yes, you cannot put extra clues there or them leaving play, which happens too. So if you ever get all 6 of them in play, though, you just advance. I've never done that.
6 of them, and there are no clues on them.
Yep.
Yes.
and no clues. I've never done it. I may never ever do it. I've gotten 4 or 5, maybe 5, I think, but
Yeah,
it's
the
tough.
most I've gotten is 5.
Okay, let's
Shall we
look
continue?
at the other locations then.
Metropolitan Cathedral. You can take a
So
horde to draw 2 cards, I guess.
this is why I like to start here. Is I don't actually
Yeah,
like to do the whole discard cards. That I'll do it later, but I usually
yeah,
make a beeline towards the Metropolitan Cathedral because um, the explore here is not hard. So all of them have
yes.
this like condition to explore. It's not just take the action. This one is if you have 6 or more cards in hand. That's not hard at all.
True. You will get one of the square locations. For example, this one is 2 Shroud and 2 Precludes. After it enters play, you place a Doom on the nearest enemy, which could theoretically not be in play, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
You can also take an action to place a Doom on an enemy and discover 2 clues at this location. That is part of the cost, so there has to be an enemy for you to do that. Um,
I like that
but
one.
it is nice. Yeah, I
That's
like it.
that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
The other one,
Yeah, everyone at this location when it enters play takes a direct damage. Ouch. While you are investigating it, if you have 3 or fewer health, it gets -2 Shroud.
mm,
So
oh,
it's
oh,
okay. It's only
okay,
1 per clues. So
yeah. Let's put that one to play.
sure.
So
You'll see that this one is connected this way. Very interesting.
right. So the other one, the original version. So the
It's
ancient
only
ones
connected to
always
that.
have the same ones, but the only way was this way.
Yeah.
All right, let's traverse around this direction then. The
Yeah.
temple
Temple
ruins.
Ruins. This one's just a double action to explore. Not so bad, albeit. So something we should mention, obviously, is you'll note that there are 4 encounter cards in the exploration deck. Yes, if you draw one of these before you draw a location with a matching symbol, you have to stop and resolve it, and you have failed. Meaning, if you discarded 5 cards that have a total cost of 5 or more, you better do it again.
Yes. So that's what makes this scenario really tough, is because the cost to explore is not just a single action, and yet you are. I mean, it's only 4 out of original 12, right?
Yeah.
But you are likely to hit some of these sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes you get more added to the deck. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
It's
the fact that there are 12 in here doesn't mean anything because you're just going to keep exploring until you hit a matching location. So it's not as simple as how many of the good cards are in the deck because there's only going to be 2 out of the entire 12 that will match.
correct.
Unlike in previous ones where maybe multiple locations that are connecting.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Basically, that's why going to the cathedral is good because the only cost is an action. You can maintain having 6 cards pretty consistently. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And we'll see later on, there are even worse costs as
Yes,
well.
there are.
So, all right, we get Templo Mayor. This one, after it enters play, you shuffle your discard pile into your deck. You discard cards from the top until you get a weakness, and you draw it, which could be really bad,
If
I guess.
if you're not expecting it, right? Because something like
Yeah.
this that spawns an enemy at the end of your turn, right? Because you spent 2 actions to explore.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Maybe you moved here and then said, "I'll take the 2 actions," and then you're like, "Cool, I have something that deals me, 2 damage or something."
Yep. You maybe you're Daryl Simmons. You just take 4 horror since it's the beginning of the game.
Yeah, who knows? It could also
Yeah.
be internal injury or something, and you take a damage just for ending your turn, right?
Yep. Pretty tough. You can also take an action to shuffle a weakness from your discard pile into your deck to discover 2 clues of this location. I don't know if I've ever done that.
Yeah, that's maybe good at the very end of the game if you have to just
Yeah.
like take the action.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have a 4 shroud, 1 per clues. You shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. You discard cards until you draw a serpent enemy. You spawn that enemy here. And yeah. To note, if you are not going the Alejandro route,
Hmm.
there is only 1 serpent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you'll basically get that one, or there'll be none because that one also has victory and vengeance. So
Yep.
this might just reshuffle the deck, I guess. But it does have a reaction. After you defeat or evade a serpent enemy here, you can get to discover a clue at this location. That's actually pretty nice.
It is nice.
Yep.
There will be a serpent later that works on.
That is true. All right, let's put that one there because I like that one. All right, and this one's connected over here to Chapultepec Park. That's very nice.
Let's take a look.
Oh God, this one haunts my nightmares. Yeah, so it's only one shroud, which doesn't mean anything, because there's no clues here. Forrest, after you fail a willpower test here, you take a horror. There are plenty of willpower tests in this scenario.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, all of the tests are willpower tests.
And there's a willpower test on the
Act
Explorer,
card.
and also the other
Oh
side of
yeah,
the Act, you may
yeah.
recall.
So yeah, you have to succeed a willpower 3 test. You better succeed that, otherwise you just wasted an action. You might, have to commit some cards to draw an encounter card. Anyway, we're looking for triangle, which, oh god, is in here somewhere. Where are you? Chapultepec Hill.
Okay, there's 2 of these. Let's look at the one I was thinking of. Each investigator gets -2 willpower, so I'm pretty
Oh
sure
god.
that's in play when you flip the Act, right?
Yes.
But after you draw a hex, you get a clue. That's nice, I guess. Consolation
That
prize.
is pretty good. Yeah. Draw a hex, so you don't even have to pass it.
Yep.
That's nice. And
But no one wants to end their turn here, Like, if you end your turn here, you're just asking for it, I think.
Yeah. Otherwise, 2 shroud. That's nice. After an enters play, each investigator at this location discards 2 random cards from their hand. That's pretty tough. And as an action, you can discard your hand of at least 3 cards to discover 2 clues. That might not be worth it.
No,
but
I mean, if you're already, I don't know. If you have exactly 3 cards, maybe, but
yeah, it is also only 2 shroud.
The funny thing about this scenario, I like that they give you something, but most of those are pretty unreliable.
Yeah.
Ways to get clues. If it happens, it happens, but otherwise, eh.
Yeah.
Which one do you like better?
This one, I guess.
Yeah.
this one's crazy.
Very cruel.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the Koyokan.
Yeah. Oh God.
Sure, just take a damage or a horror at the beginning of the. And again, if you're like Vincent or Carolyn, sure, whatever. But I'm very hesitant to want to do this at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, take a damage, draw this, take another damage and horror, and shuffle it back in.
Exactly, right. So, again, it sounds like, just 1 damage or horror, who cares? But the thing is that this scenario piles it on.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at what we could get.
Sacred Woods. So, yeah, this one's 6 Shroud. Very nice, or very high. And you have to increase the cost of each card you play by 2. Yeah, each card, by the way. That's really bad. However, while you're investigating Sacred Woods, it gets -1 shroud for each asset you control. Hey, you know what are assets? Permanents.
Permanent cards, yeah.
So good. I once had, I think it was on turn 2 that I had 6 assets in play because I had like a charisma and that Miskatonic archaeology funding and some other stuff. It was a lot of fun.
I like this one. It's like the lighting box, though, right?
Yes.
So if you can just like move in here, get the clues, and then leave, it's not bad. But I think on lower player counts, this is sort of doable to not end your turn in particular locations. But on higher player counts, it's hard.
Yeah. All right. Otherwise, after an enters play, each investigator at this location mills 10 cards. Which is honestly not the worst thing in the world.
Not the worst. There's other things that are worse here.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, as an action, if you have no cards remaining in your deck, you get all of the clues, all 1 per clues. So that is interesting.
There could be more clues here.
There could be. Yeah, just to clarify that, by the way. We'll get to that when we talk about this card. But I believe that no matter the number of clues on the base location, it always adds its clue value to the location, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So that'll be important for later. Let's do this one. I like that one.
Sure.
The true location setup is revealing itself.
Yeah.
Finally, we have Xochimilco. Oh yeah. Oh god, this one sucks. Oh no. I hate this one.
You need to clear out the encounter deck before you do this.
Yeah. Oh my god. But it's so much worse. It's not like you can't gain resources while you're here. So the action to spend 3 resources require you to not be here in order to do it if you fail. And it's like, oh my god.
I know. I mean, at least the one that said you have to have 6 cards in hand let you gain cards.
Exactly.
Even with
Like
an
this one should be
action.
like take a horror, gain some resources or something.
Yeah,
Oh my god. Why?
I don't know.
Why? Anyway, we get some heart locations. Lake Xochimilco. So let's go to this one. After Ninja's play, everyone here loses all their actions. Oof.
Congratulations, you just died from a hunter enemy.
um, Also, while you're investigating here, it gets +2 shroud for each action you have remaining.
Hmm.
Excuse me? I don't think I've actually seen that one. That seems terrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Intel report. Hmm.
Yeah. It's good for crack the case, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, Lake Xochimilco. Each investigator at this location takes a direct horror, so that's the opposite to one of the other ones. So it's not so bad. It's definitely not as bad as the original one, but
Yeah.
it's 4 shroud and 2 precludes though. That's a lot.
I know. So it has more clues, and again, you're supposed to clear out all the clues in order to make it count for
Yeah.
the thing.
This one does also have the text that it reduces the shroud by 2 if you have 3 or fewer remaining sanity.
If you're
So,
almost dead.
correct.
Woof.
Okay, that's the locations.
So
Should we talk about?
let's just talk about the ones that are in here, because the wrinkle, of
Sure.
course, with the exploration, which you already thought was tough, is that you might fail. So
Yes.
first one is timeline destabilization.
Yeah. Oh god. Okay, so willpower 1. Hey, that's nice. Hey, gets +1 difficulty for each ancient location in play. So the locations that we are revealing, the Technoticon locations, are all ancient. So the more of them out, the worse this gets. And yes, this gets very, very bad.
Mm-hmm.
You only take a damage in horror if you fail. It doesn't scale, but you will shuffle it back into the exploration deck if you fail. That's not what you want to have happen.
No,
You don't want
especially
that to have happen.
especially if you draw it from the explore deck. But there's 2 more of these, I think,
Yeah.
from the encounter deck, and you will draw them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so bad. We've already talked about Lost in Time.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked
And
about
we've
a
also
Terran
already talked
time.
about Terran Time.
It's okay, but again, more horror or loss of actions, not great.
Yeah.
And then there's this card. It's a
So
peril.
yeah. Go ahead, read it.
Yeah, Revelation, you must choose one, and you have to choose something that changes the game state, of course. So if you have any ancient locations in play, you can choose the first one, which does something you don't want to do. You shuffle an ancient location back into the exploration deck. The present day location underneath it takes its place. The clues on that ancient location get dropped down to that present day location.
Yep.
If you explore again and put another ancient location back on top, it gets the clues from the location you just put in, as well as all the clues that were on that location underneath. So
Yep.
do not do this unless you are willing to give up on a location that you said there's no way I can get those clues.
Yes.
Or Ancient Evils.
Yeah. So I think that at some point I messaged something at some point. Maybe it was in a Twitch chat. That I think that this is by far one of the worst encounter cards in the entire game. Just because, and we'll get to why that first choice is even there to begin with later in the scenario. This card sucks. I think, I don't know. Maybe it's just because, in my blind playthrough, we decided to do the top choice because you don't want to have Ancient Evils done to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, it's a peril.
Yep.
So, for example, one of my friends who was playing this game with me in our blind playthrough drew this card, and they're not the best Arkham player, right? This card took so long for them to think about and what to do, and ultimately they made the wrong decision, and it really kind of soured the mood, if that makes any sense.
Problem is there's not any good decisions here because the Ancient Evils effect is bad.
Yeah.
You do take it, but the fact that it is peril also means you can't cancel this if you don't have a ward in your hand. So
Yep.
you're just like at the mercy of who drew it and what the game state looks like. I hate this card.
Yeah, it sucks.
Think about how much work it took you to get the ancient location out and possibly get a bunch of clues off of it, if not all of them.
Yeah.
You had to explore, you had to pass the explorer, you had to pay the cost of the explorer, you had to get the clues. Is that worth one round? No, probably not.
Yeah. You know what I think they should have done? Uh, well, I guess a way to maybe patch it is like if you do the top action and it's still Act One, you like put in the victory display and it has Victory One or something. Um, that'd be nice.
The uh, the card?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would probably, or maybe even Vengeance if they want to go that route.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, Probably needs to come back, as we'll talk about in a second. But there's
Right.
three of these, and I think we'll get there eventually. But this encounter deck is not very big.
Nope.
Okay, so what are the other cards? We've seen these guys already, so let's talk about the ones that are also in here. Serpent of Tenochtitlan. This is the Victory Vengeance Serpent enemy that you alluded to. I always forget about the text here because it's got that stupid otherwise. So
Oh yeah.
when it's at an ancient location with clues on it, it doesn't move.
Correct.
It just has retaliate and alert. Oh, okay. Retaliate and alert's not so bad, right? Oh, but if you fail a test, it will deal you damage and
From its attack.
you get poison.
Poison you. Ouch.
So kill him quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he has Hunter. So if you draw him before there's any ancient locations, he will be out here and just run around. If you, I mean, he spawns with an investigator anyway, so it's not as likely, but he will guard the ancient locations when they're out there.
Yep. And it's this can happen is if maybe you're double action exploring Templo Mayor, this guy pops out and you're like, I have one action to deal with this guy, otherwise I'm poisoned, I'm fucked.
Yep.
So that can't happen.
So some new cultists, along with potentially the other ones.
Yes.
These guys do spawn in empty locations. After the last clue is discovered from an ancient location, if it's ready, place one doom. Also, while it is ready, you can't do any of those locations, or the action triggered abilities or reaction, sorry, on its location and connecting locations. And the map is pretty small, so
So the question that I always had with this, and I think I know what the answer is, but I'm never sure. For one-way connecting locations, how does connecting location work?
oh,
Because I know, right? Um, I think my understanding is that in order for a location to be connected to a location, that location's symbol must exist on the source location's connection list, right?
yeah. So my understanding is if this guy's here
Yeah.
and there's a one-way, thank you. Okay, perfect. If this guy's here, you cannot trigger this one or this one
Correct. Or itself, of course.
or itself.
Yes. I believe that is correct.
Yep.
Yes.
But I wish
Okay.
they were more clear about that in the rules or didn't have
Yeah.
one-way connections or something. I actually kind of like the one-way stuff in this scenario. It's kind of neat, but
Yeah, it's really cool.
okay. This guy's a free encounter card, in my opinion.
Yes. I agree. It's not so bad.
The other ones are so much worse.
Yeah. Speaking of, if you went with Ichitaka, we will have this encounter set again. So the same Brotherhood cultists and the cultists from the previous scenario.
Okay, so it's these four.
And these.
Sorry. Okay, these six cards. Okay. So this gets cultist heavy. So the doom pressure I think is very tough because it's basically there's ancient evils and the doomy guys. Or
Indeed. If you're going full Alejandro, we are back in the jungle. The Esli Guardian can be very confusing as well because again, connecting location. Um,
yes. So I think that one's easier to understand because it's like where could he shoot towards?
exactly. Where can he move towards? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Arrows in the trees is very, very tough in this scenario.
Oh God. I just realized ancient location. Oh my god.
Yeah, because you want to be at ancient locations. That's what you're trying to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's bad.
The rest of it, well, we have some snakes, I guess that's a difference. And
Yeah.
then the forging your own path version, I think, is a
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah. You're gonna get the guardians and these Brotherhood
Yeah.
cultists.
And these guys are hunters. I often forget about that. The Brotherhood cultists usually are not hunters, but these guys are.
Yeah.
So altogether, the encounter deck is very small. So let me just give you the numbers without putting it all through. I think Derby K has this all listed on his website. So there's three different versions, right? So if you're going the um, Ichitaka route, then there are 29 encounter cards. And I think this doesn't include, this includes the Explore one. So it's really like -4, I suppose.
Yeah.
If you're going the Alejandro route, there's only 26. That's an absurdly low number.
Yeah.
And then 27 if you have the third route. Do any of these have Surge,
Poison.
Poison?
I miss. No, that's it.
Yeah, so
No,
they,
shadowed.
Shadow
Shadowed.
could have Surge. So
Yes.
that's 24 in a four-player game, which is how I played this last. You go through the entire encounter deck in 6 rounds,
Yeah.
but also some of these things are in the Explore deck to begin with, or get shuffled into the Explore deck. So this thing gets reshuffled, and with 3 Ancient Evils, basically, that's the biggest problem I have with the scenario. It's too small of an encounter deck,
Yeah, it's pretty small.
and there's very few cards that you're like, okay, I can deal with this.
Yeah. Hey, it sounds like we're done with the scenario, right?
Sure,
I
aren't we?
aren't we?
Let's
No, we're not.
we forgot to flip the agenda here.
That's true. So the first time it flips, 8 rounds, we do get the Harbinger of Illusion. That's the thing.
Why not?
So why not? Um. Anyway, so yeah, the Harbinger shows up. Where do they spawn? Uh, just okay, location farthest. That's nice.
Or if there are 6 or more tally marks,
Oh right.
lead
Yeah,
investigator's location instead.
that's right. That's part of the main reason to make sure your Yig Fury doesn't get too high as you're going, because the Harbinger shows up worse and worse.
It's a party.
Basically, that it's a party.
If you get rid of her, do it.
Yeah, if you get the chance.
Otherwise, I tend to like run around in circles, and you try to play at the map as best you can to
Yeah.
just not die. Because there's
Yep.
no resign here.
Nope. You're stuck.
You're stuck. So you're stuck to just
Um.
run out the last 5 rounds.
Totally.
And then,
Oh,
Hmm.
there's new stuff. What? Okay, let's do this then. Okay, so each technological location in play with no clues on it gets put into the victory display. So that was the goal of the act, so that's good. Oh, I should also mention, I guess, at the end of this act, it'll just say do the same stuff, and
Yes,
but it actually is it's literally almost the same card. Actually,
that's so funny.
wait, it might actually be the same card.
It does say Act 2B. It's not the same card.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like the
Oh, the
text.
text.
I think the text is exactly the same,
Well,
even the flavor text.
okay. They phoned it in that
I
day.
actually didn't even realize that. That's amazing. Anyway, so let's just we're gonna assume that we got all of these out.
Sure.
You're all good. So we got them all in the victory display. Then for each present day location,
All these.
as in the ones that are back there, we're gonna search the exploration deck for a card with the matching symbol. So if there are 2 in there, you do get to choose, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll basically rebuild the map. And if I remember how this goes, I think it's there. And then this one's in the middle. This one's over here. This one's down here. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So notably, all of these come in play at the same time, and a bunch of them have when they enter play triggers. So you got to do those all now, which is really annoying.
So for this one, when do you have your actions? Because this is going to happen on an agenda flip, right? So it depends.
You refresh your actions during the upkeep.
Okay.
So yes, if you're here, you're fucked.
Yeah. So of course it depends on when you flip the agenda. You could flip the agenda during any phase, really. Well,
Oh, that is true. theoretically because of the window into another time.
Right. Okay. Which you probably, if you're getting really close to 5 Doom, you really cannot take the put a location back in unless you are unless you're like not working on any of them at that point, right? Then you could do it.
Yeah. All right. So everyone loses their clues, and then we spawn Padma and Rita at Templo Mayor. It's very interesting that she spawns at a very specific location.
Well, it is the main temple.
That is true. Okay, and then we're going to read her in a second, but
Sure.
I'm going to quickly put the new act cards into play because there's a whole new agenda in act. You thought we were done?
We have 6 rounds to either defeat her or spend 2 per clues at Templo Mayor.
Yes. And that sounds simple enough. Oh, wait. No, it isn't. Because Padma is terrifying. So, first of all, she has 5 fights. Crazy. Wow. 3 per investigator health, 3 evade. She has alert, retaliate, and hunter. All the keywords. While she is ready, clues cannot be discovered from each ancient locations.
All the places.
That's all of them.
All of them.
And, hey, she doesn't deal any damage or horror. But after she attacks you, if you have at least one clue, you have to flip that clue to your doom side.
No.
If you have no clues, of course, you otherwise take 3 horror. So her attack effectively deals 3 horror.
That's so bad.
That's so bad.
It just kills you. You're not going to make it that many rounds.
No. Yeah. So like having a reliable evade bot for Padma is like really key, I think. Especially to be able to actually investigate since you can't get clues if she's ready.
However, what you can do is when you draw the window from another time. Okay, so at this point, you can shuffle an ancient location back into the exploration deck and get a present day location. It's not going to be ancient, and it should have clues on it because of dropping clues from before, and you can get these clues no problem, and then go back here and you'll be fine. If you can make all of that work out, good.
Yes. And so this, okay, again, this is why I hate this card, window into another time, is because it's not a choice. Like, yes, in the first half of the scenario, do the second one. In the second half of the scenario, do the first one. I wish it just said that. Like, it's really annoying for me that they forced us to decide. Because, again, this happened to me once. We were playing, I wasn't playing blind, but another friend of mine was playing blind. Mm-hmm. They drew this. They didn't know the scenario. They were trained the whole scenario to choose the bottom one. And in this second act, they were like, okay, put a Doom on. And we were like,
no.
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Because,
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid that it's like, it changes everything.
It's not a good choice, right? That's just like another gotcha thing that this scenario has way too many of.
Yeah.
And not everyone is going to, think all of those things through. And the game should not test how clever you are on that kind of thing.
Yeah. I really wish it said, like, if it was Act 1, Ancient Evils, if it's Act 2, do the thing. I really wish it just said that.
I think it's because they didn't want you to know about Act 2, but that's also kind of dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I guess it's Act 3, theoretically, right?
Right.
Act 3. It's Act 3. Yeah. I wish, I always forget about Act 3, and I'm like, oh god, we still have like an hour of this scenario left. Because it really feels like the first half is like a full scenario.
It is. And then you've already been whittled down to almost nothing and you have to deal with this problem. Yeah. Plus, like, I don't know, this 5 rounds, 6 rounds is going to go pretty quick if you don't have clues.
Honestly, if you don't finish this act in the first 2 rounds, I think you might just die.
Yep.
Especially if the Harbinger is still here, it's chasing you around. Oh god.
Yeah. So you can kill her. Like, she's not. I mean, if you just go in and kill her, that's kind of the way. If everyone dies before that, then that's just the way it goes. I have spent the clues. It has happened. But Victory 2, Vengeance 2, that sounds good.
Yeah, and also it doesn't matter what you do. You get R1 anyway. It just means that you don't get the Victory 2 Vengeance 2 if you don't kill her.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
And if you die,
we talk about
resolutions?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course.
There's no resign here. I really wish there was just a way out, but There is
Yeah.
no way out.
Yeah. Resolutions?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if everyone died, then you still get the paths known. So, regardless of whether or not you succeeded the second of the last act, as long as you got to um act 2, I guess, you will record that X paths are known to you. X is the number of technologic line locations in the victor display, aka the number of locations you're able to get in play and remove all clues off.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
At the
so
moment that the agenda advances.
correct. Or if you died before that act, at the moment that you died.
Right.
Which, to note, remember, kids, you drop your clues when you die. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
might matter.
Good point.
Yeah. Anyway, record stuff with the Harbinger. Oh, sorry. If you did actually get R1 by finishing, if you did at least 3 of the technological locations, you also record that Ishtaka has confidence in you, which is very important for that route of the game.
So try to get 3. 3 is,
Yes.
I wouldn't say, I don't know if 3 is average, because I think it's still hard,
Yeah.
but it's doable.
Yeah. And honestly, like literally, when I'm playing this scenario and I'm going Ishtaka, I'm like, as long as I can get 3, I don't care what happens. The really upsetting thing is when you get like 4 or 5, but you fail the final act. Because you don't get Ishtaka's confidence in you if you die. You
That's right.
only get it if you finish the final act,
Yep.
which is kind of bullshit.
Because it's really hard.
Um, yeah, Jesus. Anyway, regardless, you also mark off Harbinger stuff in case that they're still alive or not. Same stuff as before. Vengeance as before. Victory X, and you get 1 additional experience for each technological location in the victory display. They had victory 1, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can get
Then we have
a
an
good number. You get 3 plus the serpent, and then Padma, that's 6.
Yep, that is true.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Interlude
Gun
3?
interlude. There's a resolution 2? What the fuck? Wait. Oh, is that if you doom out?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's just the same as no resolution without defeating you.
Yep.
If it was active, how the heck is that even possible?
If it was Act
How
2
is
when the
that?
game ended,
Oh, Act 2. Wait.
that doesn't make any sense.
That is impossible. What?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
I'm so confused.
All right.
Anyway, same thing. New interlude. So, bet you had some gas. Otherwise, if you don't have gas, you gotta not take mulligans the next scenario again.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a map, the investigators mapped out the way forward. That will be very useful in the next scenario, potentially. And then you will check your rations, same thing that you did after the first scenario, beginning the next scenario with 3 free resources for each ration you could not cross off. Poison spread. So if you got poisoned or if you are poisoned, you can either spend medicine or you take a physical trauma. If you spend medicine, you get rid of the poison. If the investigator has a canteen, then they can begin the next scenario with a clue.
One clue.
One measly clue,
Oh boy.
I guess. Oh boy. Okay, but this is important. So, if 3 of these things are true, all of them are true. If there are 2 or more cultist tokens in the chaos bag, meaning you parlayed with her in the first scenario and then you listened to her tale in the second one. If you forged a bond with Ichtaka, that is, you completed Ichtaka's deck in Threads of Fate. And if Ichtaka has confidence in you, you got at least 3 paths known in this scenario, and you completed this scenario. Then Ichtaka's faith is restored, and you add a 3rd cultist. This changes the technically 7th and also final scenario a lot, I guess, but it does change those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is what you're kind of striving to do if you know something about the campaign. There's no benefit, as I mentioned, I think last time, to kind of finding a middle path, right? There's really just 3 paths. There's 4 things that could happen. You have all of your eggs are in the Ichitaka basket, and here's where it's checked. Faith is restored. Great.
Yep.
There are consequences for that. If you do the Alejandro route, then sometime later that will be checked. Cool. Then there's that 3rd path that is what's it called? Forging your own path.
Yep.
And there's some specific things you need to do in order for that to happen, and that will have some consequences later. And then there's none of those things are true, and you get no benefit.
Yeah. You kind of just miss out on the story.
Yep. And they
And
don't.
everyone hates you.
Yeah, everyone hates you. I kind of don't like that. There's not a whole lot of good signposting about what exactly to do with your first run through. I would
Yeah.
say. Um, my first run through, that's exactly what happened. Like we said, hey, what do you think you should do? And one of the players was like, I don't know. How about this? And you're like, okay, we don't know what this if this matters or not. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's like I never encountered that with my group because our play style was very much like if we're doing this one thing, we're doing it all the way. Like that's what we did with TCU
hmm
also, and
well,
also with Scarlet Keys
but
actually.
that
So
one, like those two, make it very obvious what you're when you're making choices.
that's true. That is true. Yeah,
This one, like a lot of it is, did you stop and listen to Ichitaka talk about things or not? And you're like, I don't know. What does that mean?
that's true. And I think that also some of it is like in gameplay, so it's not part of like the choose your own adventure where you have control over it. Like the first cultist or tablet is based on whether or not you defeated Ichitaka or you parlayed with her, and theoretically that choice may not be a choice because you're like we have no way to defeat her, we have to talk to her, for example.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Or vice versa. We can't pass a 4 intellect test.
exactly.
Anyway, that's just a thing that irks me about the campaign a little bit. They do a much better job of signposting, like, this is the choice you're making. You immediately add the token. In these, you don't really know what that means, if anything at all.
Yeah,
Okay. I think we're done here, right?
I believe so. Oh, tokens. Oh god, tokens.
Oh no.
Oh god, we have to talk about the tokens. Oh, I forgot the other worst. Okay, anyway, let's start with the tokens. Skulls, not so bad. -1, -3 if you're ancient. Very classic.
Pretty standard, yeah.
Both the cultists and the tablets reveal another token on the tablet. Sorry, on the cultist. If you fail, you put a doom on a cultist enemy. Not the worst thing in the world, honestly. Could be bad. Tablet, if you fail, after you reveal, if you fail and there's a serpent enemy at location, it attacks you. That can be bad for example, the Harbinger of Valusia or that big serpent guy.
Or Padma.
Oh, she's a serpent?
Yep.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, never mind. That was pretty bad.
Yep.
All right. Those are nothing compared to this elder thing. Okay.
This has
It's a
screwed me so many
-4.
times.
If you fail, place the clue on the nearest ancient location. By the way, if you're curious, on the hard difficult, you don't fail. You just place
it.
the clue down. Fuck you. Okay, so this okay. This motherfucking token. It is so stupid. I hate this token. It is as worse as Window from Another Time for me in this scenario. Because I think that one, it's a -4. So it's very likely you're going to fail that.
Mm-hmm.
It removes progress from you. I think that the amount of progress that it removes, if that's high, which in this case it is, the modifier shouldn't be a -4.
Correct. It should
If
be
the modifier
-2.
is high, exactly. If the modifier is high, then have the fail effect not be so bad. But why? Why? It's yeah.
So if it did it on a location that had clues already, that would be slightly better.
I agree.
But as it is, I've drawn this when the nearest ancient location was when I was sitting on. I had just finished getting the clues off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or you just left the location or something like that, right? Like it's bad. Now, how many of
It's
these
bad.
are in the bag? It depends on your route, of course.
Correct. If you are going normal route, it's Chaka Alejandro, there is only one in the bag. If you are going forging your own route, there are 2.
There are 2, and there are no other symbol tokens other than the skull.
Correct. So, notably though, because the cultists and tablets reveal another token, those ones could theoretically be an Elder Thing token also.
That's true.
So, if you have two cultists, then it could lead to an Elder Thing, which is pretty bad.
And if you have 2 cultists and you draw both of them and then the Elder Thing.
Hey. Yeah. All right.
Man.
Yeah.
Do you have any like before we go into rankings, like what are, as we can see, look at the map and stuff that's out here, like what are some small changes that you think could have been made beyond the window to another time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's literally just the window to another time. It's the it's the elder thing, and it's some of the costs in order to explore these locations.
Yep.
For example, I think that what they could have done for the one that gives you a damage in horror is it doesn't you don't take a damage in horror. That's the thing that checks for whether or not you have a certain amount of sanity or health, like that last scenario, one of those last locations in Black Star's Rise.
Okay.
And then you can like have an action to maybe like take damage or something. Um, I think that if all of the actions on the explorers were not something to spend and then do something, rather check, then I think that the scenario would be much better. I'm okay with the double action one, honestly. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that one's
But
okay.
for example, like Xochimilco, maybe instead of spending 3 resources, it's like if you have one or fewer resources to explore, right?
Then I get to play my cards.
Exactly. Maybe in Zocalo, it's if you have one or fewer cards in hand, like that. Um, I think there's so many better ways they could have done this action.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I feel like the map itself is okay. Like the number of locations is small, but it's that I don't, it's not that big of a deal. Like running around away from enemies if you have to is okay. That's part of
Yep.
the game. I
I also
think
really enjoy all the. I love the one way location stuff. I love that it changes. I
me
love
too.
that.
I really like playing on TTS for that reason too.
That's
Drawing
true.
all the location makes things way easier. I think they just need to ease up on some of these location effects, like the -2.
Yeah.
Willpower does not match with the benefit they give you at the bottom here.
Yep.
That's kind of my thoughts as well. I'll reiterate the encounter deck needs to chill out a bit. It has to be bigger.
Yeah.
There needs to be a couple of tests that are just like, oh, you fail and take 2 damage, the end. Instead, it's take a damage in a horror, shuffle it back in. By the way, this is a 7 difficulty willpower test.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to talk about this a little bit more on our rankings.
Let's do it.
So let's start with replayability, which is not really something we mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there more to enjoy? I mean, it has
So
the Midnight Mass, like how far can you push your luck, and that's good
yes.
and maybe kind of fun to see if you can do better than you did last time.
Yeah. I actually think I was actually just gonna mention that because I agree with that somewhat. Um I like seeing how many techno-tingle locations I can get from this scenario. I actually really enjoyed that part of it. Um, the part that I don't like is the third act, and it's the same every time.
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, so that one really knocks it down for replayability. That being said, as I said, I do really enjoy the how many can I get aspect of this. As you said, I wish there was more agency on determining whether or not I was able to get the ones that I want, like in Threads of Fate or Midnight Masks. Like, for example, having a resign ability, or
Mhm.
like an action to just flip the act card. Come at me, Padma. I'm ready.
Isn't it kind of
Um,
weird that there's that section of the game where you're like, I don't want to bother, clearing off a location. I just don't think I'm gonna have time to do it, and you just are waiting for the agenda to flip.
yeah. There's a strat, right? Is you get 5 technoting locations out, you keep one present day, and you use Janae to just shove all the clues on the present day one.
Every video, Janae Beauregard makes an appearance.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, so I think that there's actually some amount of replayability in this scenario. I don't think it's bad in terms of replayability. I'm going to give it a 2.5, which is maybe higher than I thought I would. But what do
I
you
was gonna
think?
give it a 3. I mean, the different
Okay.
locations that come out, that's always a positive, and you kind of are guaranteed to see both of a few of them.
Yeah.
I don't like the locations, but
It
it does change things up a little bit.
does.
All right.
Do we have a 0 on our scale?
I mean, that's kind of where I'm going as well.
Yeah, I think this is, if anything, one of, if not the most unfair scenarios in this entire game,
Yep.
which is saying something. um, I'm putting it at 0 if we have that. Um,
Off the chart.
yeah, I think that it has so many things going against it. The window to another time, the Elder Thing tokens, all of the terrible effects that happen when they come into play, the terrible things that happen when you explore. Hey, you might draw an encounter card and have to test willpower again. Oh wait, you also took 2 horror because you failed those willpower tests. Um,
And here's a random madness or injury weakness.
oh God, I forgot. I keep forgetting that happens. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. I don't like that sort of gotcha that happens
Yeah.
on any of the flips.
Yep.
It's not fun, and it's not what I'm playing Arkham for. Like I'm here to roll with the punches, but when they give you no opportunity to do it, then you're just like, well, okay.
Yeah.
The pressure is a problem. Like it's just too much pressure to do things that are kind of out of your hands too.
Yeah. I think also, like, it's not like unsurmountable. Like, I've gotten 5 of them before, but you're not even having a good time while you're doing that.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's a challenge that is it's piling on so much that you don't feel like you're playing your deck much either.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never like sat around and waited to forever to explore. I don't know if that's maybe a better idea. Wait
Yeah,
till you're all
maybe.
set up.
Yeah.
But the explore mechanic here is different than all the other ones just because of the cost. They don't come back to that ever again.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have tried it here. Okay. Hmm.
Uh, so I'll admit, for balance, I think that, like, it has some breadth of investigators that can do stuff. Like, I do think that, being able to evade Padma, the Harbinger of Volusia,
Mm-hmm.
that serpent guy, um, I do think that the one very key piece of imbalance here is window to another time, specifically because it really encourages, like I imagine this scenario where you're bringing someone who's never played this scenario in, and beforehand you're like, okay, if you see this card, choose this option. I don't care what you're about to say, you have to do it. um and that, like, and for me, I don't know why, but that feels like it's underbalanced, because it feels like this scenario is so not newbie friendly, if that makes sense. um like,
It,
if you are going into this blind and you aren't, like, mathing out everything, you will have a terrible time in this scenario.
I think this is another good reason why TFA is leaves a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. That they
Yeah.
remember that this was just not fun to play,
Yeah.
and they have to
Like
play it.
so often in this scenario specifically, you get the phrase, "How was I supposed to know that was going to happen?" Or, you say, like, "We lost this scenario very quickly," and then someone online was like, "Idiot, you chose to reshuffle the location back into the deck," and you're like, "I just feel stupid." It again, it's just a gotcha that the game did not need to give out.
Yeah. So the willpower question, I think, is relevant here too. So the willpower tests are tough.
Yeah.
4 for the weakness. So you basically tell your mystic who's on the team, hey, you're going to be the one to explore first,
Yeah.
I guess, or someone who can redraw tokens. I don't know. The willpower test on timeline destabilization is going to be tough because that's how you progress the game.
Hmm.
Last time I played this, I just kept drawing that over and over again.
Oh
Like I
God.
explored again, and then it's just, well, it came back again. I failed. What do you expect?
You know what an excellent card for that test is? The Eye of Truth.
Ooh, get
That's
rid
like
of
it
that
also
card.
gets yeah, and get +4 to any other ones you see.
That's a really good pick. Did I put that in my video? I don't know. I should have.
Maybe.
Nah, I probably didn't because I was trying
Yeah.
to pick things that were even worse in this campaign, like something from the next scenario. And,
Right, yeah, that's true.
um, so like if you have the wrong person in the wrong spot, it hurts. I think a
Yeah.
good balanced scenario is going to be let the players make that choice of like, okay, we need someone to do this. Okay, that person can do it.
Yeah.
But even like your ward of protection feels a little bit useless here because you can't even use it on your friends, and then you just watch them make the wrong choice or put doom on the agenda or whatever, and you're like, well,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Uh I think I'm gonna maybe this is higher than it should be. I'm gonna give it a 2. Because I do think that there are some elements that are being brought out. Like I do like some of the aspects of like, hey, you need more cards than normal in order to explore here, or doing resource stuff is like kind of bad here. So maybe like other kinds of decks can shine in those moments, but it's still pretty not so good.
yeah, I think that would make more sense to me. I mean, I agree with the in principle, right? Each location should allow a different deck to do their thing, but
Yeah.
the problem is that look at Chapultepec Park, right? They say it screams willpower investigator, come over here. You do the investigate, you flip it, and you get the -2 willpower, and you're like, thanks.
Yep. I wonder if there was a way to spin this where instead of having all of the things be like a cost associated with like the kind of deck, like resources or cards or willpower, it's like the better you are at those things, the better the explore is somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, another version of the explore mechanic that let you, either ignore one hit from the explore deck.
Yeah.
Sorry, one whiff or something, right? If you draw
Yeah.
something that's a treachery, you can just ignore that once. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah. Or like instead of drawing until you can't, you'd like search top X or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is there any investigator that really shines in this scenario, though?
Uh Ursula Downs.
Yeah, the extra movement and anyone who gets extra actions, I think probably does better. The
Yeah, for
the
sure.
time is so short.
Yeah.
Okay, I've had enough talking about that part. The experience for me is like a 1. It's not as bad as the fairness, in my opinion. Because there's like something kind of interesting. Does it establish the fiction? Like, kind of. I like the whole traveling back in time. Um, I like the locations changing their connections. That's pretty neat. But the new and interesting gameplay loop, that's only, I mean, these questions are only part of the story, right?
Yeah.
I, it's just a bad experience. It overshadows any of the interesting things that are happening, and it just makes me feel like I don't want to play the scenario.
Yeah. So I think that I actually am willing to maybe separate more this category from fairness,
Hmm.
because I agree that this is an egregiously unfair scenario. And the question is, does that unfairness help evoke the experience that the scenario is intended to have the players experience? And I think that there are some things in here that, as you said, are good. I love the change of locations, as you said, and I really do like the fiction of these past places in Mexico, merging with the present, and things are going haywire and things are changing, and all of this stuff is happening. And so I think that, the question is, if the scenario was more fair, how much does that affect the general experience of the scenario in terms of things like fiction and interesting ideas, right?
Hmm.
So I think I'm going to separate it from fairness as much as I can. and I'm going to put it at a 2.5 because I also agree that there are some things wrong with the scenario that are not just about unfairness. Mainly, I think that a lot of the ancient locations are kind of just there. Like I don't get why at Chapultepec Hill I get -2 willpower. I don't get that. Maybe I could infer something about the hill and like past rituals that occurred on the hill,
I've
but there's
been
nothing
I've been there before. I mean, not the ancient version, obviously. I've been to
right.
Chapultepec Park. I don't know why willpower would be any different.
Exactly. I don't understand why in the sacred woods that things. I don't know why there's a lighting box in the sacred woods. Um, so stuff like that. I think that those are the things that actually really knock it down for me. But I do like the other aspects of what it was trying to evoke, I guess. So that's where it is.
Right. So, I mean, I'm coming down hard on this unfairly, and you're right to try to separate things. I think to me the gameplay loop that they're trying to come up with, which is kind of interesting, isn't a good one.
Fair enough.
Um, and I don't think it helps. So you're right. Like, okay, maybe the point of this is to be, uh, everything hates you, right?
Yeah.
I don't think in a game like this that needs to happen in quite this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yes, it's unfair, but also the thing they're trying to do is, I don't know, not my favorite way of going about this. They can lessen some of the cost themselves. They could do various things that we mentioned already to lessen this on the fairness side. But I also want to give the investigators a little bit of a fighting chance here in scenarios where it's supposed to be difficult, that
Right.
it's like craziness going on. Um, for scenario 4, which is, reasonable time for things to be a little bit more difficult, um, I think the experience shouldn't just be crazy things are happening and you're just gonna have to sit with it. That's
Fair
kind of where
enough.
I'm coming at with my rating here.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts before we move on to the return to?
I think I'm good with I think I'm good with what I said.
Okay, sounds good. We will talk to you next week about Heart of the Elders, and there's like kind of two scenarios there. We haven't decided if we're doing those in two different weeks. We might, because these
Question.
scenarios reviews are getting kind of long. But we'll talk to you next time.
So yeah.
Okay, the return to changes things, I think, significantly with the locations and the exploration deck, which improves the scenario in my eyes quite a bit. Let's take a look at what
Yep.
the differences are.
Yeah, so on our setup card over here, we have some new encounter sets as always. And for each of the present day locations, we remove one of them at random. Obviously, we're going to be showing off all of the new return to versions, but you might get a mix of the old ones and the new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Also, of course, you'll get the new Harbinger of Valusia as always. And most importantly, when you're building the exploration deck, you use the 12 single sided ancient locations as before, but no encounter cards are included. And as you'll note, because this is the first time we've seen this since the first two scenarios, there is no text that causes you to add new encounter cards into the exploration deck after a successful exploration. So, without other effects, there are no encounter cards in the exploration deck
Yay!
for the most part. There's one exception.
So I believe it's really just the timeline destabilization that can enter.
Correct. I believe that is the only case in which another encounter card could enter the exploration deck, which is a lot better.
Yes,
It's
and
it's
uh, you can draw this during the Mythos phase and just discard it. It's only if you fail that it will ever enter in.
correct.
So
That being said, it's still a pretty tough test. It can be pretty bad.
it can be really bad, but
Yep.
maybe you can ward this or give it to someone
Yeah.
else. I don't know.
And for once, I agree with the gameplay ramp of the fact that at the beginning, you will have none of these in the encounter deck, and therefore the explore is assured. And once the game gets going, for the most part, you will more likely see these in the encounter deck because they might be failed, right? And so it's going to be harder and harder to do the Explorer successfully later on in the scenario. But I'm okay with that because the early ones are the ones you want to get. I'm like, I want to get at least 3, and I'm going to just try and get to 4 or 5, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And we didn't mention this before, but if you draw this during Act 3, it
Correct.
goes away.
The exploration deck does not exist.
It
So I
does.
believe.
It does exist. It gets
Oh, I'm
shuffled
sorry.
in.
Correct. It does exist. It just gets shuffled in. That is correct.
So even if there's no cards in the exploration deck, this still can shuffle into the quote unquote exploration deck.
That is true.
Okay. That's good. That's really good.
That is very good.
You might say, isn't there a rule about shuffling a single card into an empty deck or whatever? That is only true for the player investigator deck.
Correct. You can shuffle a card into an empty exploration deck. That's totally fine. And technically, you could do it for the encounter deck too, right? Is that true?
Think so, but it's never really empty.
Oh, that of course, yeah.
I mean, it might be able to. It could happen, but it's very rare for it to be empty.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, the new locations.
Yes. Let's go through them one by one. Start by Zocalo again. 2 shards are clues. Discard cards with a combined total of at least 4 skill icons from your hand. That is a lot easier than total cost of 5, I think.
That's 2 cards, probably, maybe 1 if you're lucky.
Maybe 1, like for example, like a Steadfast.
I don't know about that one.
Well, I mean, if it has those symbols while you have that much health, right?
I don't remember. I think those things only kick in if you are committing it to a skill test, like the text.
No, it does not. The text is active when it's in your hand. Otherwise, you couldn't, right?
No, that's why there's 2 icons on it already.
I'm actually not sure because I think that the text is active because you can use these for the train cars in Essex, right?
Okay. The rules sidebar. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. So this one is if you have 10 or more resources, and as a take a horror, you can gain 2 resources. This is what Xochimilco should have been.
Yes. Perfect. Right.
Yes. That being said, 10 or more is still pretty tough. So
it's a lot, but if you know it's here or you come and find that it's here, then you can plan on that and you'll say, okay, I'll come back and do that when I have that many.
Indeed. Temple Ruins. After you successfully investigate, so you have to pass a Intellect 5 test, effectively.
Or 6th Sense or something.
Correct. And because there are no cards in the exploration deck, this one feels a lot nicer to be able to commit some resources to do it, I think.
Yeah, it's just pass a test.
Yeah.
And it gives you any way you want to do it. Hey, 6th Sense level 4, you could investigate somewhere else that's ancient, and then also investigate this and get a... That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Koyokan. Damage and horror cannot be healed from cards you control. That includes your investigator and also any ally assets, for example. As an action, if you have 5 or more total damage and horror on your investigator. Hey, that's actually what I recommended in the previous talk we had. I like this one, actually. It's not something you do immediately, obviously, but it will happen to you. So you're like, okay, I'm bad enough now to just do this now.
Trauma, right? Counts.
Yep.
Which I think is good for this campaign. Calvin is like, sure, I'll do it. This one's fine.
Yeah. The damage and horror cannot be healed from you for Calvin could be bad.
Well, then you just, you explore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's gone.
Yep. All right, Chapultepec Park. So this one is agility instead of willpower.
It's the same as the other one, basically. It's take a damage if you fail. There aren't as many agility tests, though, so...
Yeah, there are no agility tests on encounter cards either, so you won't weirdly fail. It'll just be evade tests, and then this test, obviously. I can see where they're going for with this, because, you're going to the Forgotten Age, so you're probably taking reasonably high agility investigators, potentially. So maybe this is easier in that sense, instead of having to do willpower tests, but...
I mean, to me, it's kind of like the Temple Ruins, right? Because it's just a 5 test that you have to pass. This one, it's a 3, but it's 1 stat.
Yeah, and because of the fact that there are no cards, I think that's the important part.
Yep.
Is that like the only risk for failure here is taking a damage, as opposed to taking a damage and also drawing a card that maybe takes a damage and horror and reshuffles again.
Hmm.
Um,
Probably, other
yeah,
than the this,
right.
and then the willpower test if you are if you're doing this one
That's true.
first.
That is true. All right, Xochimilco, after you successfully fight or evade an enemy here. I actually really love that reaction because you can't do it at the start, but when you can pull it off, it's really nice.
Hmm.
And it's free, basically.
Yeah, it's a nice mirror of the investigate one as well.
Yeah. The only issue is that if you don't know that that one's there, you have to go there to see that it's there and then be like, okay, we're coming back here.
It's true. This one makes you kind of run around the map early.
Yeah. That being said, obviously you can have the Stolen Mind or the Brotherhood Acolytes spawn there as your choice because it could be empty or there could be no cultist enemies, so you could put them there.
Hmm.
Um, and then otherwise you'll just have to kind of ferry them around, maybe.
I mean, the Etzli Guardian, if that's in your set here, often goes to empty locations. Um,
Yeah, true.
it's a small enough map. I think it can happen. You can let
Yep.
a Brotherhood cultist run around, I guess.
Yeah.
This is good. This is what it should have been in the first place, where you either take tests or something you can eventually get around to.
Yeah, and ultimately, there are still the window to another times in the encounter deck. There are still the elder things that do really bad things.
Hmm.
But this definitely helps, having not so much a cost to explore and a downside for exploring, aka drawing a random encounter card.
So the Tyndalos Alpha could be your enemy to evade or fight.
True. That is true.
Yeah. This is I mean,
Fucking murdering time though. Fuck this card.
this is still here, but
This is the one. Okay, on my channel, this is the card in this scenario that lost me 3 actions.
oh,
It was during the final act. I was all ready to defeat Padma. I lost 3 actions. She killed me.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's better. I've had a much better experience with the Return to. I've gotten 4 here, and felt like I was almost about to get a 5th, but I, yeah, it's just they toned it down a bit where I think it's more manageable. It still can
Yeah.
be very, very hard. I think that they didn't fix everything, but
And I think that I'm okay with them not fixing everything because I do like, when we're talking about the replayability of the scenario, the challenge of the scenario does add to its replayability for how many you think you can get. I think that the issue with the scenario is that it fought back at you in so many different vectors.
mhm.
In this case, it has still really rough parts about it, but in the parts where maybe they don't feel as bad, they removed a lot of the feel bads from those sources.
Yes, and I don't think they were gonna be able to with the card budget and the Return to fix everything.
Yeah.
I personally, again, just add 2 more encounter sets. Give me another 6 cards or something. A lot of encounter decks have 30 to 36 or so cards in
Yeah.
the encounter deck, and this one has not that. So if
Yep.
they came up with like 1 more set or something, or 2 more, I would have been much happier, but they couldn't do that with the Return to. Okay, that's about it.
Mhm.
It's kind of in the middle of the campaign, so I do have to say that I quite enjoy pretty much all the ones after this.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
They're much more
Oh, maybe not the next one, but
well. It has its own problems, right? But
yeah.
I,
Different
yeah,
problems.
it's not the kind of grr feeling
Yeah.
I have after playing this one. So I think after this, we have some other cool things to talk about. It'll be a good time to talk about Heart of the Elders, and there's definitely something to talk about. There's consequences from this one, but ultimately, it feels more like a normal Arkham experience, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. You're back in the jungle.
Yep, back in the jungle. Okay, see you next week.
See ya.